All right, so today we're going to draw some trees, everybody. Okay, so we're going to start with just a couple of trees, talk about method for doing this. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to start off by sketching lightly. All right, so we want to start by planning our structure, and then we want to add our contour lines, and then we want to add shading and texture. So to start off with, we're going to draw kind of a foreshortened X. Something like this. Okay? This is going to be where the base of our tree is. So from here, we're going to kind of plan out the structure of our tree. So I'm going to draw kind of a line in the center of where the tree is going to go. It's going to kind of come up this way and maybe branch off this way. And then we'll do another one up here. And then one more kind of over this way. Okay? And that's going to be kind of be the structure of our tree. I'm drawing really lightly because I'm just planning right now. All right? So now I'm going to kind of add the thickness. Something like this. Alright, so here's kind of the way our tree trunk is going to look. So the bottom of this is going to be kind of curved like this. It's basically like a spherical shape, but it's maybe a little more organic, so maybe it comes in and out a little bit. And then I'm going to add some roots on the lines of the X here. Okay. So when I do my roots, I can do however many roots I want. Sometimes I might do a tree that doesn't really have any exposed roots in the ground. I'm doing 4 right now, but you can do as many as you want. You just kind of add more axes to this X, and you can add more roots on there as you please. All right, and then I'm going to draw the leaves. So rather than trying to draw individual leaves, which would be really time-consuming, I'm going to kind of think about them as being like large clumps of leaves. All right, so I'm going to draw kind of just a sphere. Kind of some spherical shapes, maybe not like totally spherical, not perfectly round, but just kind of large clumps. Something along those lines. All right, so now I've kind of got my tree all planned out. I can see how much space it's taking up, where it's placed. All right, so really important for us to think about in these initial phases, like what space is our subject occupying? What kind of space do we have around the subject? Is everything balanced? Does everything look right? Is it taking up an appropriate amount of space, right? So I want to think about space and positioning and just kind of the general shape of my tree here. After this, I'm going to come in and I'm going to start doing my contour lines. So I'm switching to softer pencil to get the darker lines in here. If you ever want to use the softer pencils, there's graphite kits up there. You're welcome to use one of those during your sketchbook days. The softer pencil just draws darker. Okay? It's softer, so it makes darker marks. I'm kind of pulling in my contours. Now, I probably, or maybe don't want to make perfectly like straight and even contours. I might let them kind of meander around a little bit and think about the like rough texture of the bark a little bit. So I want to think about if I was a small bug and I was crawling up this tree, what would my path look like? It probably wouldn't be perfectly straight. Now, depending on what type of tree I'm doing, I might have different sort of textures, different sort of results, different lines. But for this one, I'm going to keep it kind of rough. All right? Alright, so I'm kind of just getting my contour lines all over the trunk of my tree to start. So the thing to remember with the tree trunks and branches is they generally get skinnier as they come out, right? So we just kind of want to think about making the base of these a little bit thicker than the extremities most of the time. That might not always be the case, but that's kind of our general method here. So after I've gotten my contour lines laid in, I'm going to start adding my leaves, okay? So what I want to do for this, instead of kind of just drawing a contour line around each of these clumps of leaves, I want to kind of think about texture. So I'm maybe instead going to come in and for the kind of edge of this tree clump, I'm going to try to apply like some leaf-like texture, okay? So I might do some curved lines. I might do some that loop all the way around a little bit. But I want to make the edge of this leaf bundle look like leaves. And again, there might be times when it's appropriate for me to sort of come in and draw like all the leaves one by one individually, but most of the time I'm probably not going to want to do all that. So kind of drawing this way and drawing them as like clumps or a single unit can be a quicker way of getting that work done. And oftentimes you'll kind of get better results that way as well. So now I want to start thinking about texture and shading. Okay, so I'm going to draw my little spike here. I'm going to have the light coming this way. Right, so I'm going to have kind of shadow under here. And one of the ways I might apply my texture and shading at the same time is really like get a lot of my textural elements on the darker sides of my subject. Alright, so I probably want to apply like kind of little leafy loops to all of my my leaf clusters. And then I want to think about kind of the texture of the trunk. I might do the same thing here, kind of apply my texture a little bit darker and maybe a little bit thicker or more densely on the dark parts of the tree. And then when I do the lighter areas, I might go a little bit lighter. I'll put a big knot in the tree here. And I'm just going to lightly apply texture in these lighter areas. You can see I have some of my lines earlier from where I was planning this tree out and kind of figuring out which way it was going to go. And they've just kind of been absorbed into the texture of the tree. I might think about doing some like cross contours on the tree, something like that. Kind of define some of that volume a little bit. If I want to, I can also kind of shade things with the side of my pencil. A little shadow that way. I'm probably also going to have a cast shadow coming out this way. Probably going to obscure that. Right. Add some more texture. Alright. I might also apply shading here. Another thing to think about when I'm applying my shading, maybe I curve my strokes a little bit so that I'm using kind of cross contours to shade. And that can give me like a little bit extra hint of form here. So what I mean by that is instead of just going like straight across, kind of curving my strokes a little bit. Maybe that gives it a little more form. Alright, got a nice little tree. Alright, so finish that one up and then we'll do one more. Just a minute here.